Hello everyone and welcome to the Curious Calculator. In today's video we're going to be going over the following problem. Divide 5x to the fourth minus 8x to the third plus 6x minus 9 by x squared minus 3 using long division. Alright, so let's get started here. Let's draw our division bracket, and inside this division bracket we want to place our dividend. But we want to be careful when doing this because let's notice that we have a degree 4 polynomial here, which is missing a term that is raised to the second power. But when we write this polynomial underneath the division bracket, we want to make sure that we write a term for every degree that's less than or equal to 4. So let's go ahead and do that here. We have 5x to the fourth minus 8x to the third. And then for this degree 2 term, let's go ahead and just write plus 0x squared. And that's just going to be the same thing as 0. And plus 6x minus 9. And then outside here, we'll write our divisor, the x squared minus 3. Alright, so to get started, what we want to do is we want to look at the leading terms in each of these polynomials, and we want to ask ourselves, what do we need to multiply x squared by to get 5x to the fourth? And we're going to need to multiply x squared by 5x squared, and that'll give us 5x to the fourth. And what I'm doing now is I'm multiplying this 5x squared back into our divisor right here, the x squared minus 3, and I'm writing that below right here. So I did the 5x squared times x squared, which gives 5x to the fourth, and then 5x squared times negative 3 will give us a negative 15x squared. But we want to be careful and line that up with our degrees in the dividend. So let's write that right here. And then let's fill in this space right here with a 0. Alright, so, and now we want to subtract here. The first ones are going to cancel. Awesome. And then this one we're just going to drop down because we're minusing 0 from it. So minus 8x to the third. And then 0x squared minus negative 15x squared is going to give us a positive 15x squared. And then now we want to drop this term down, and that'll be plus 6x. And we want to repeat the process, so now we want to look at the leading terms here, the x squared and the negative 8x to the third, and ask ourselves, what do we need to multiply by to get the negative 8x to the third? And that will be a negative 8x. So we'll write that here. Then we multiply this back through. So we'll get our negative 8x cubed. And then negative 8x times negative 3 will be a positive 24x. But again, we want to write that right here. And then we'll fill in this place with a 0. Now we want to go ahead and subtract again. And that is going to give us, well, these will cancel out. This plus 15x squared is going to drop down right here. And then 6x minus a negative 24x will give us, or sorry, minus a positive 24x will give us a negative 18x. Okay. And now we want to drop down the negative 9 right here. And let's repeat the process again. What do we need to multiply by? Well, we need to multiply by 15. So I'll do plus 15. And then we want to do this with the negative 3. So 15 times negative 3 will be a negative 45. Well, let's go ahead and write these out here. So 15x squared plus 0. And like I said, minus 45. We're going to go ahead and subtract this off. Alright, these ones cancel. This negative 18x gets dropped down here. And then negative 9 minus negative 45 is going to turn out to be a positive 36. And at this point, there's not anything else that we can do because you can't multiply x squared by anything, to get a negative 18x. So this right here is actually going to be our remainder. And so what we can do is we can write this in the following way. We can say plus negative 18x plus 36 over our divisor, the x squared minus 3. And that right there will be our final answer. And I'd like to end today's video with a little fun fact from philosophy. Did you know that Aristotle thought that the heart is where the mind and thought is, and that the function of the brain is actually only to cool down the body?